Hey writers, are you feeling stuck or frustrated with your writing? Chances are you could be making some common mistakes that many writers fall into, especially amateurs. But don't worry, it happens to all of us. Today we're going to break down the top 5 mistakes I see amateur writers make, and more importantly, how you can avoid them. Let's dive in and level up our writing. This is one of the most common mistakes amateur writers can make, telling rather than showing. What do I mean by that? When you tell your readers how a character feels or what a scene looks like, you're giving them information, but you're not letting them experience it. For example, instead of writing John was angry, try showing that anger through his actions and dialogue, like John slammed the door so hard the walls shook, his fists clenched as he stormed across the room. In this version, the readers can see John's anger and feel the intensity rather than just being told about it. Showing instead of telling makes your writing feel more immersive, engaging, and vivid. It allows readers to draw their own conclusions and feel more connected to the emotions and events of the story. To avoid this mistake, pay attention to how you describe your scenes. Ask yourself, can I show this through action, dialogue, or sensory detail instead of simply stating it? Let's talk about flat characters. One dimensional characters who don't change, grow, or have depth that will leave readers bored and uninterested in their journey. Flat characters often lack a strong backstory, goals, flaws, or motivations. They end up feeling like the plot devices instead of real people. To avoid this mistake, focus on creating characters with depth. Give them a backstory that explains their personality and actions. Think about their flaws, what are their weaknesses, and how do those flaws affect their decisions? What motivates them? Are they driven by love, fear, ambition, or something else? Complex characters evolve as the story progresses, making readers care about what happens to them. A great example is Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice. She starts off with a lot of prejudices against Mr. Darcy, but over the course of the novel, she learns and grows. Her character arc keeps readers invested because we see her change and reflect on her beliefs. Strong characters aren't just there to move the plot forward, they should feel real, with goals and growth of their own. Your opening pages are crucial. Amateur writers often start their stories with slow, info heavy beginnings, introducing the world or backstory before diving into the plot. But here's the thing, your readers need to be hooked from the very first line. They won't stick around if they're bored with the first few pages. Instead of starting with a lengthy introduction or backstory, jump right into the action. Drop your readers in the middle of an interesting scene or conflict that gives them a reason to keep reading. You can weave the necessary background information into the story later as it becomes more relevant. Think about The Hunger Games. The novel doesn't begin with an explanation of the world or the history of the games. Instead, it opens with Katniss preparing to go hunting, which shows us her resourcefulness, her relationship with her family, and hints at the harshness of her world, all without long info dumps. A strong opening scene sets a tone and pulls the readers in, making them curious about what happens next. Another mistake many amateur writers can make is overcomplicating their plots. It's easy to get carried away with trying to include too many subplots, twists, or characters, but this can quickly become overwhelming when not done right, for both you as the writer and for your readers. An overcomplicated plot can lead to confusion, pacing issues, and a lack of focus. To avoid this, start by keeping your plot simple and focus on the main storyline. Ask yourself, what is the core conflict of my story? What are the main goals and obstacles my protagonist faces? Once you have a strong foundation, then add subplots or twists, but make sure they serve the main story and not distract from it. A great example of a focused plot is The Great Gatsby. The central storyline revolves around Gatsby's love for Daisy and his attempt to win her back. While there are other subplots like Tom's affair and the social dynamics of the time, they all serve the main narrative. This keeps the story focused and engaging without overwhelming the reader. The final mistake is one we've all been guilty of at some point, not editing or revising enough after the first draft. Amateur writers often finish their first draft and think it's good to go, but the truth is, writing is rewriting. The first draft is just the beginning. It's where you get your ideas down, but it's the editing process where you really polish your story and make it shine. Take the time to go through multiple rounds of revisions. Focus on different aspects in each round. First, look at the big picture. Are there any plot holes? Are your characters' motivations clear? Then move on to the smaller details like sentence structure, dialogue, and word polish. And then finally, polish up the grammar and punctuation. Don't rush through the editing process. This is where your story takes shape. Even the greatest writers didn't nail it on the first try. Every draft gets you closer to the version of the story that's in your head. So there you have it, the top 5 mistakes amateur writers make and how you can avoid them. Whether it's showing instead of telling, building deep characters, starting with a strong hook, simplifying your plot, or dedicating time to revision, these tips help you take your writing to the next level. The best part, these mistakes are all completely fixable with practice and awareness. Let me know in the comments which of these mistakes you've struggled with and what strategies have worked for you to fix it. As always, keep on writing and thanks for watching.